Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this our keynote speaker for today. I'm really delighted that I can introduce you to the Ministry for Industry and Business, Nadhim Zahawi, especially honoured as it's also Conservative conference time as well. Wanted to take the opportunity just before we start to mention that we have the opportunity to have online meetings during this virtual event, and we also have two events for you next year at UK Construction Week. We're going to be looking to come to London in May, and we're looking in Birmingham in October to create these events to be a catalyst for the recovery for the construction sector. So looking forward to listening to the Minister today on his announcements and plans, so we can help perhaps deliver some of that recovery. But first, I'm going to hand over to Keith Waller, who's the Programme Director of Construction Innovation Hub, who made some great announcements over the last couple of days, and he's going to introduce Nadhim and also do some questions and answer at the end. So good morning, Keith.
Thank you, Nathan. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's keenly anticipated Construction Game Changers keynote session at UK Construction Week. As you may be aware, at 11:30 this morning, two Conservative big hitters are due to be delivering speeches, and I'm glad you've joined me for what will be the most important and interesting of those two. So it's my great pleasure to introduce the Construction Minister, co-chair of the Construction Leadership Council, and my constituency MP, Nadhim Zahawi. Minister.
Thank you very much, Keith, for that wonderful introduction, and of course, Nathan. And I've been following the various events that have been taking place, and it really looks like the COVID challenge has not held us back at all, and it's really great to join you here today. I think last time we met, I was standing in a room much bigger than the one I'm in right now, speaking to more 1,000 of you from a lectern, and today it is just me chatting to a laptop. And I hope you all know which setup I would prefer. But these are the burdens that we have to bear at the moment, unfortunately, ones with which we are all now very familiar with. So instead of dwelling on the very real challenges, of course, that we face and that we have been facing this year, and of course, not just us, but the whole world is facing as it is today, I'd instead like to bring you an optimistic vision, one of a brighter, greener future for the whole country, which is actually very much going to be the theme of Boris Johnson's speech, literally as I speak, as a prospect, I think, in many ways, which sounds more like an ideal than anything achievable, but which is, I can absolutely assure you, very real for this government. Because if there is one thing that we have learned, that I have learned in the business world, it is this: when you meet a setback, there is always something you can learn from it, and always an opportunity to improve. So that is precisely what this government will do. That is absolutely our focus to do in the wake of COVID-19, to use this time when we must rebuild, to build back better, build back faster, and build back greener than ever before. Last year, the United Kingdom became the first major economy in the world to legislate to end its contribution to climate change by 2050. We've been followed by other countries as well. Of course, buildings make up around 1/5 of our greenhouse gas emissions, and construction will play a big part in reaching that goal. Both the Construction 2025 strategy and the construction sector deal include a commitment to reduce carbon emissions from the built environment by 50%. And last week, we took a step towards that goal as the Green Homes Grant Scheme opened for applications. We are funding up to 2/3 of the cost of home improvements of over 600,000 homes is our estimate. It will support 100,000 jobs in green construction. And I think the construction sector is stepping up to fight climate change. Recently, we've seen companies like Mace and, of course, Wilmot Dixon announce ambitious net zero commitments. Through the Green Construction Board, the sector is providing government with regulatory and technical advice on how to overcome the barriers that may be in our way to get to that net zero target. And I'm delighted that today at 1 p.m., the Construction Leadership Council will be setting out industry proposals for a greener regeneration investment fund. Personally, I'd be delighted to see these goals progress, and I would like to thank the Council, along with Andy Mitchell, for their work in supporting the sector in these difficult times. Today, Building Back Better cannot wait. In June, Boris Johnson launched Project Speed, a new task force which will be chaired by Rishi Sunak, the Chancellor, which brings together key departments across Whitehall. Its entire purpose is to bring forward proposals to deliver public investment projects strategically and with the utmost efficiency, so that we are building the right things, we are doing it quickly, taking away any blockages, any hindrances to making that investment in our infrastructure. But that does not mean building recklessly. We all know how important it is that the places we work and live in are safe, and that must be maintained. That is why we're working closely with the Ministry of Housing, Communities and Local Government as they work to establish a new building safety regulator to ensure that safety remains a cornerstone of our industry. So as we build and rebuild, we expect to see smart new policies and ideas coming from the task force, helping us to meet the urgency of this moment. And to complement this, soon the Cabinet Office will be publishing the Construction Playbook, a new, more collaborative procurement and supplier management strategy, with the government using its position as the sector's biggest client to drive innovation, I hope spark industry investment, and of course, create more opportunities for SMEs to deliver government projects. This should again help to speed up construction, but improvements to supply chains can only do so much. It is well established that there is an issue in the industry with major companies and contractors failing to deliver projects on time, not because the industry lacks commitment or passion, but because of the way that we in the UK build major projects. That is why we want to encourage more off-site manufacturing, enabling different contractors in a project's supply chain to develop and build their components separately elsewhere, and then bring them to the actual construction site in a coordinated way to be assembled and put together. That will increase, I believe, efficiency, improve timescales, and almost as importantly, reduce some of the hassle of a conventional building site. 251 London has shown the value of this approach. But of course, it's not just the materials and timescales which are a challenge in the sector. There is still a skills shortage within construction, something that is likely to be exacerbated by the financial climate around COVID, and it was during the last recession when some 500,000 people left the industry. And sadly, we know that more jobs than that could be at risk in the sector by the end of this year. That is a danger that we will absolutely fight against. So while we make efforts to keep the industry building, we're also doing all we can to retain the skills of the sector and bring new people in. As Boris Johnson set out last week, we are working across government, industry, and the two industry training boards for the construction sector to identify the skills gaps and, of course, the needs to deliver the next generation workforce for the sector. My own department, Bays has already invested £1 million in the construction talent retention scheme, which companies across the country are using to protect and retain skills whilst keeping the industry moving forward. It's done through a really easy to use website. Companies can post vacancies and be matched to people with relevant expertise and experience. Individual users, meanwhile, can register their details, creating a profile and apply for any job on the site, retaining their skills and experience, keeping the sector going, and the paycheck coming in. 700 companies, including Balfour Beatty, Mace, McDonald, and Stantec, have already registered with the scheme. And I would urge more of you to do so if you have not done so already. Because as well as keeping people working, we estimate firms will save almost £95 million on recruitment, which will be a real help in these challenging times. So as we are going through this, I remain optimistic. With our goals set out clearly, our means for achieving them in motion, I firmly believe that our best days are ahead of us. On the day the Prime Minister launched Project Speed, he stood behind a lectern that said, build, build, build. That must be our mantra from now on. But with the additions, build faster, build better, and build greener. We have ambitious plans to kickstart our economy and a whole lot more work to do to meet our climate commitments. And much of that will be built by you. We in government will support you through that transformation, that transition, so that together we will build a better, greener United Kingdom. Thank you very much indeed for listening to me.
Thank you, Minister. That was really, really helpful, inspiring speech and optimistic look for the future there. And you mentioned the forthcoming construction playbook, and we heard a lot this week about value and value-based decision-making and the value toolkit. Do you sense there's a real appetite in government to drive some meaningful transformation in the sector? It talks about net zero, social impact, whole life performance, manufacturing, digital. Do you sense that purpose is in government now?
Thank you for that, Keith. I do. I think, I spent 10 years of my life observing human behavior in another place. I built YouGov as a business before entering Parliament, and now 3 years in government, and of course, as the Minister for Business and Industry. I see the commitment that this government has to the economic recovery. That does see us, as I've just said in my opening remarks, build back better, faster, and greener. What does that mean? It means that changing how we plan, how we design, and of course, how we deliver new infrastructure, homes, and of course, social infrastructure, such as new schools and 40 hospitals. Now, realizing this vision will require a bolder approach. We need to design and construct buildings that are more energy and heat efficient and use more sustainable materials. And you're going to see more on that in our energy white paper, which we are close to publishing. The technologies that are needed to deliver this vision already exist. For example, digital and offsite manufacturing technologies, which are at the heart of the transforming construction challenge, are already there. The Cabinet Office will also soon be publishing the playbook, the construction playbook I spoke about, signaling, I think, what the industry has been looking for, which is our commitment as the sector's biggest client to push forward innovation, spark that industry investment, because as industry works on signals, and if they see the signals and they see the sort of the pipeline coming through, they will make that investment and of course generate more opportunities for SMEs to deliver government projects. That is a huge opportunity for us, and I've been working with Lord Agnew on this because it's an opportunity that we can take as we've come out of the European Union to flex our procurement towards much greater UK content and much greater SME content as well.
Perfect. Perhaps On a slight flip side, you mentioned in your speech some of the challenges for businesses in the sector, with potentially a number of workers who've been furloughed or some facing redundancy. And of course, the talent retention scheme that was launched last month, alongside and sort of delivered through funding of your department and the CLC COVID task force. I mean, it's been really welcomed across industry. But what would you, in your opinion, what would constitute success for the talent retention scheme if we look back at it in a year's time?
Great question, Keith. And I was really pleased, when the sub came up to me say, look, Minister, we need to put £1 million towards this. I actually thought this is money well spent. We know from the Construction Leadership Council's People Survey that the numbers obviously are estimated, but we're talking about just shy of 700,000 jobs are at risk at the end of this year. I think that's a sobering number for the industry. But what we also know that those workers possess an array of skills and expertise which are still in demand and will continue to be in demand, because I know what the pipeline looks like for this government. That is where I think the Construction Talent Retention Scheme comes in. You quite rightly mentioned, I highlighted it in my opening remarks. We've already had 700 firms sign up to the scheme. Almost 850 workers are signed up to the portal to find their next role, which I think is a fantastic start. But we need to do much more than that if you think of the bigger number, shy of 700,000 I mentioned earlier. You've asked what success would look like for the scheme beyond what it has achieved so far. I believe that the scheme will, I think, help redeploy thousands of workers and could save, touching on £100 million for recruitment costs that the industry would have paid to try and reach those workers and their expertise. And ultimately, what the scheme will help ensure is what we all want to see: an industry that remains, one, fully operational. We couldn't have built the Nightingales without the industry playing a vital role in our economic recovery, because actually the way we're going to recover from this is to invest that £640 billion, almost 2/3 of a trillion in the lifetime of this parliament, and make sure we invest that at pace, but as I mentioned earlier, not recklessly. It really is in the interest of all of us, of UK PLC, of all the firms, to utilize the TRS, the talent retention scheme. And as I've said, I very strongly encourage them to do so if you haven't done so already.
Okay, well, I'll make sure that for those who don't know, we'll get the link on our website, and I'm sure there's lots of places you can find it on the CLC website as well. Chris, have you got time for one question that's come from the floor, which is from Gillian, which says, what is your top wish for change in the construction industry?
My goodness. Well, the industry will you'll all know this already, but I'm going to be a bit sentimental here, but the great Tony Pidgley, 2 days before his sudden death, was on a call like this with me, and he was so excited about their off-site facility that they had built and the investment they'd made, and they'd made it sort of, as he put it, almost below the radar, Minister, as he said, because we didn't want to show off about this stuff until it's ready, but now we're ready to show you. So I if I had one wish, one, he'd be with us now. He's probably looking down on us, kicking us, urging us to get on with it, is to make sure that we really deliver on the promise. If we can be a world leader in offsite, both in housing and in the public realm, in infrastructure, then I think it's a massive opportunity for the United Kingdom. Massive opportunity.
Oh, that's great. Thank you ever so much, Minister, and thank you for your time this morning. The best speech by a Conservative Minister today, so, absolutely. So I'll hand you back to Nathan. Thank you very much from myself and all of the people listening in today. Thank you.
Thank you, Keith.